Yo, what is going on, guys? This is BunnyMuffins. I got the meta snapshot for week 2 of patch 11.7. It's been a weird week, I'm not going to lie, because I found that like everything works. It just depends on your game, and I've been saying this all set, and this is because of the chosen mechanic. Flexibility is key, and you can't just force a comp every single time because that's just not going to work, because if you don't get the right chosen for it, you just can't play it. At the same time, if you don't get the right items for something, you also can't play it. So you have to mix both chosens and items to find the comps you are going to go for. So right now, like, I don't even have anything in the S tier this week because, again, like, everything is good, and you just have to know what to play each round. Like, the game's kind of getting really perfected because people have been playing on the same patch essentially for like 3 patches in a row now. It's about to be 4, and the only real big change is that Talon is actually viable now, and before he wasn't. Before, when I said he was viable, I was wrong, but now he definitely is very playable. I've seen him played by a lot of top challenger players as a possible go-to comp, and the reason why it's good is because when you play keepers, you actually build Morello Nomicon really early, so you could go for either keepers or Talon because Morgana uses the Morello really well. And with the Guardian Angel that's used on Kennen in the Keeper comp, you could just throw that on Talon. So the items are very shared between a lot of different other comps, and that's what makes Enlightened Talon a little better than it is before. Of course, they also buff the champion, so that also works out for them too. Alright, but this is going to be a short video this week because you guys already know how to play all the comps, so I'm just going to go through it really quickly. Slayers, nothing in the S tier. Slayers in A tier. I think they're still the best comp, but there are so many different variations you could go with these guys. You could go for 6 Slayer, 3 Slayer with Vanguards, 3 Slayer with Adepts. It really just depends on what you have. If you don't have Last Whisper, going Adepts is really useful because Yone kind of acts as your Last Whisper because Yone reduces a lot of resistances, and then you just don't need the Last Whisper. There are a lot of different options you could go for, but again, it depends on what chosens you get, depends on what champions you get, and depends on what items you get. So if you get a lot of Slayer items, go for 6 Slayer because you have room for all of them. If you get a bunch of AP items as you're going Slayers, maybe you could drop the AP items on Yone, or you could go for a different build, which is the Dragonsoul build, which we'll get into later. So I'll just scroll to that when we reach there. Again, you guys can find all this information on my website, bunnymuffins.lol, in case you guys were wanting to find out more info on this. On to the next build, Keeper Kennen. Again, this is what we were talking about before. GA Morello, those are the only items that matter on Kennen. Literally everything else does not matter. Like, Isaiah could use so many different items, it's like impossible to list all of them. She could use attack damage items, she could use AP items, she could use some defensive items. A lot of people like Titan's Resolve on both Xayah, Set, and Aatrox. Static Shiv, you could build that on Azir if you really want to, but like GA, Morello, Kennen, that is all you need for this entire composition. This comp's more of a top 4 comp. You need like a super early Ornn in order to compete for first place because he gets you to your late game, because he gives you a lot of extra items that are really, really strong. So unless you get like Kennen 3 with a lot of Ornn items with like a Set 2, don't expect to win with this, but you will get like top 3, top 2, top 4s like very, very often whenever you play Kennen. On to the next build, Kale. Kale's just like the classic Rageblade composition. So if you ever slam like Rageblade and you have a lot of the aura items that you slam for early game win streaking, go for Kale. So whenever you're win streaking in the early game and you're slamming items, this is probably one of the best comps to go for. I don't really recommend going for Kale if you are low health because she does have a lot of counters, so I would just watch out for that. Next up we have Mages. This is like the default Fortune build that you like get into because this comp uses spatulas super well. They use the extra items super well, and like the Nikos of course are going to be amazing because you play so many legendary units. The core of this build is getting Guardian Angel on Asol and then getting 1 damage item and 1 healing item, so that could either be like Handed Justice does both of them. Jeweled Gauntlet is a better damage item, and then Hextech Gunblade is the best healing item. But you could replace either of those with Handed Justices because they kind of do both. It's like a 50-50. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. That's just all part of the game. But if you don't want to take the 50-50, go for the items I mentioned, but you can't always build those items, and sometimes you just have to deal with the Handed Justices. The late game is capped out with Mage Cap Swain because he is such a broken unit. He gains so much health with the Mage trait, and if you put a Warmogs or any sort of defensive item on him, he is just unkillable. and Aesol cleans up everyone in the back, so you don't have to worry about anything if you have this build fully fleshed out. Neeko, this is a great complementary comp to the Mage comp because they use the same items. Neeko, you can notice down here, she has the best in slot Aesol items right here. The only thing different is that you could use Vanguard spat in this comp, and you could use a lot of Chalice of Powers down here on the Yuumi just to buff up your carry. Next up, we have Spirit Sharpshooters. This is one of the reroll comps. If you get a lot of copies of Tristana, a lot of copies of Diana early, this comp caps out super strong in the late game. And once you hit 3-star of both of them with good items, you're going to win streak all the way from stage 4-1 throughout like the rest of the game. It is very hard to lose with this composition because the just raw damage output that they have with the tankiness from Locket of the Iron Solari is just unstoppable. Next up, we have Cultists. Cultists is a great top 4 build. There are a lot of good top 4 builds. Kalista is just a complete monster because she just attacks super quickly, and 2-star Kalista, you don't even need 3-star. That's the beauty of this. She shreds a lot of the tanks, and Galio just lives for so long, especially once you get to 9 Cultists. And combine this with the great mid-game you have with Cultists, with 6 Cultists, you're just going to be having a ton of health over everyone else, and then it's just a free top 4 once you get to 9 Cultists, because a lot of teams, they just can't kill Galio because they don't hit their 2-star 4-cost carries. Now onto the Dragonsoul build. I just made a video on this that was like my last video. Great if you get a mix of both ability power and attack damage items, because Olaf and Shyvana use the attack damage items and attack speed items, while Aesol uses all the ability power items. And then the tank items, they all go on Swain. So literally this just makes use of like mixed items really well, and it makes great use of spatulas. And you can play this from Fortune too, which is extremely fun. This is probably one of my favorite comps right now just because it is just so cool to play, and I like all the champions naturally. Like Brahm's really cool, Swain's really cool, Shyvana's really cool, Aesol's really cool. These are all like the set 1 champions. I think that's why I like them so much. On to the next build, we have Enlightened Talon. This is the build I was talking about before. You get the Morello on Morgana and the GA on Talon, and let's say you were going for keepers, and all of a sudden you see a chosen Talon in your shop when you roll down on level 7, go for the Talon. Conversely, if you get chosen Morgana, go for the Morgana. If you are going for Kennen and see a lot of other players going for Kennen, but you already built these items, go for this build. It is really good because Morgana is just so solid against other keepers as well. So if you find yourself going for keepers and 2 other players are going for it, you just naturally counter them with this Morgana because they're all grouped up in one side of the map, and Morgana's ult will just hit all of them, which makes it a pretty easy matchup in my opinion. Now we have Brawlers. Brawler's pretty good still. It just revolves around 3-star Shyvana carry and then going for 8 Brawler. It's another top 4 build. Any of these comps with like 3-cost carries are mainly top 4 builds unless you high roll them, such as getting a 2-star set and a 3-star Shyvana. But that's really rare to get both of them in each of your games, so unless you get that, don't really expect to win with this comp because they kind of fall flat against the 4-cost carries at 2-star. But if you get to super late game, then you will eventually beat all of them. Not going to go too deep into the B tiers and not going to go over the C tiers, but I'll just give you some other options to play. And I'd really stick to the A comps. There are so many A comps that we mentioned that like you're going to find one that you'll like. But Sharpshooter Vanguards with Sivir 3-star carry is still viable. Warlords, if you get perfect Warlord starts, go for Warlords because Katarina 3-star with these items beats everything. And then Duelists, you could do some reroll Duelists. I'd say the only viable rerolls are the Duelist comp and the Spirit Sharpshooter comp. There's also Assassins, which is next. But this is a little more difficult to play because you need to go for a Kali chosen, and a lot of people don't really know how to do that without getting like a Diana Assassin chosen early and getting like a quick 3-star Diana. Because that just doesn't happen every game, so I do not recommend playing this unless you have a lot of practice on it. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this week. Again, I want to keep this video short because not much has changed, and I don't want to waste your guys' time, but like everything's viable, and you guys, if you watched the previous videos, you already know what's going on how to play all of these, but if you don't, go ahead, hit the subscribe button down below. I have a bunch of other guides on my channel for each and every one of these compositions, both in a video form and on my website at bunnymuffins.lol. But apart from that, I will see you guys later.